You're listening to Lights Camera Latino, the podcast, hosted by Angel Fabian Rivera. Remember to follow us on our social media platforms as Lights Camera Latino and Angel Fabian Rivera. Hola mi gente, welcome to Lights Camera Latino. As always, I am your host, Angel Fabian Rivera, and if you're not following us already, remember to check us on all social media platforms as Lights Camera Latino. I'm so excited today because we have a very special episode just in honor for the Atlanta Film Festival, and I am also very honored to have here Sarah Schoellkopf, the producer of Norita, powerful documentary that's being showcased here at the Atlanta Film Festival. Norita tells the story of Nora Cortiñas, a traditional housewife who transformed into one of Argentina's most important human rights activists after the disappearance of her son during the 1976-1982 military dictatorship. This film not only captures her incredible journey, but also highlights the personal cost and resilience behind her public activism, and also with that, the Madres of Plaza de Mayo. Sarah, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. Un placer total.
Yes. Wait. You. Where did you learn your Spanish?
So I am from Los Angeles, but I spent many years because I have my doctorate in Spanish and Portuguese. So I lived in Argentina, Chile, España, Brazil. So I am not Latinx. I am an ally, but I speak Spanish and used to teach Spanish for decades.
Wow, me encanta. I mean, you speak it very well. I love it.
Gracias totales. Como dice Cerati.
Me encanta. Okay, Sarah. So first of all, I wanna congratulate you on bringing Norita to the screen. You know, to the Atlanta Film Festival. I watched the movie, and like I told you before, it just made like a huge impact on me. Like, it's so powerful. So I want to ask you, how has the experience been so far sharing the film with the U.S. audiences?
It's been incredible. So I would say since January 20th, it's been even more impactful and more significant. We premiered last year at Dances with Films, and I'm one of, it's a really big team that helps do all this, but I am the lead producer. And it was this amazing, wonderful moment in June, and we had some of our EPs and a lot of our producers, one of our directors, Hollywood Boulevard, incredible moment. And it had a huge impact then. And we've been in film festivals, and I've been doing academic screenings, but honestly, since January, it's even more impactful, and it's impacting people who are not Latinx, and it's impacting everyone because they see this story, this incredible narrative, this incredible woman who lived through trauma and authoritarianism and misogyny and all of these things that frankly are really pertinent right now in our country and other countries. So it's been incredible. We just actually won the audience award at the Chicago Latino Film Festival.
Yes.
And apparently my co-producer Melissa Daniels was there and just said that the audience, you know, I being coming from higher ed, had a friend who's at DePaul, and she brought all of her students, and they just all Latinx people, like Latino, Spanish, huge reception. Amazing.
It just gives me chills just to think about it. I'm just getting it right now because I grew up, right? I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, so this story, it was like a kind of like a myth. You know, it was not a myth, right? It was real. But, you know, it was like everybody talked about it somehow. It was like, yes, you know, about the Madres de Plaza de Mayo, what happened there, what happened in Argentina, what happened this and there. And I watched movies about it because they did a couple movies just like, you know, about it, just, but not I never saw like real life, like a real life documentary where I could hear the person talk about what really happened, how they actually felt. And this is what Norita brings to the documentary. And I
Yes.
know you met her, so how how would you describe who she is, and why is her story so powerful? Like how was she?
So I met her in 1995 when I started an internship while studying abroad in Buenos Aires. And I knew her for nearly 3 decades because we lost her last May. She was everything you see on screen and more. She was poderosa. She was so powerful and so petite. Like she's this contrast of a human. She was the Energizer Bunny, and she realized you had to be joyous and have self care in a sense. She pushed every important social movement forward. She was a renegade in the sense that she saw movements before the rest of the madres saw that they were important. And I'll use an example. In 1996, I was with her with another internship the summer, and we happened upon the Gay Rights March in
Mhm.
1996 in Buenos Aires. The previous day, there'd been a march of thousands of people representing the 1000th Thursday in the Plaza de Mayo. So
Oh wow.
the Madres had done this huge event. I was an intern. We did all these decorations, speakers, I think like Leon Gieco played. I can't remember all the details. I probably have it in notes. Point is, thousands of people went from the Plaza de Mayo to the Congress. Thousands. The next day, we happen across the Gay Rights March in
Hmm.
1996. And she's like, Sarita, we're going to do this. And I said, of course. I mean, of course. But she takes off her panuelo in
Mm,
1996 and says to me, I support this, but I can't speak for the rest of the madres. And
mm,
within a few years, of course, the madres aligned themselves to gay, trans, queer issues in the country. But 1996, she was already with the she knew what was coming and knew
yeah,
it was
yeah.
important, and everybody of course recognized her, but kept it on the DL, like
Hmm.
it was like Norita está aquí, but it was, and that just is how she was. She was the life of the party, the strongest advocate in the room, and also very humble, very humble.
Mm. Yeah, I remember even in the documentary, I'm not gonna give out spoilers, right? But I remember at some point she talks about, she's like, we didn't know what we were doing when we started this. Well, then we
Exactly.
realized that we were just being activists. We were
Yep.
fighting for people's rights in different levels, and she became a voice. And then with the women's rights as well, with the abortions and
Yes.
stuff like that. So she
Exactly.
started fighting for everybody, and
Exactly.
she just became that image. And seeing her walk the plaza, and everybody like knowing her, everybody's like, oh, Norita, how are, oh, let me
Yes.
take a photo, and she's giving kisses to everybody. She knows everyone. She
She
knows
knows
everyone by
everybody.
name.
Yeah. My
That
husband
just Wow.
loved. Oh, I'm so sorry I cut you off.
No, no,
But
no,
my
no.
my
Yeah.
my husband knew her obviously because he had to get the seal of approval basically before I married him. Like we went to Buenos Aires and it was like, yes, you survived the test, you win. And he loved walking on the streets with her because that is exactly what you would see. And without her panuelo, people would like recognize her and be like, Norita. And it was just, oh, it's and I was a good friend to her. Like she considered me like a nieta, which is such an honor.
Mm.
But I also, it was like being friends with this icon. And it was really, and everybody, her activism was not partisan. She never aligned with a political party, which, in
Oh,
this country
yeah.
right now is such a topic. And I also respect that so much. She aligned with causes and people, but she never endorsed a political candidate. You know
Wow.
what I mean? So
Wow. Yeah.
Huge. That's a huge thing in today's world. And she was doing this decades ago.
Wow, that's incredible. And with that, Sarah, I wanna. When was the moment that you guys said, "Oh, who came up with the idea of like let's actually tell her story"? And how did you approach her and say, Norita, we're gonna do this. We want to do this about you.
So I was not on the ground at the time. Our two directors, Andrea Tortorese and Jayson McNamara, were living in Buenos Aires. Jayson is a Australian but married to an Argentine, and had been working on another project and had met Francisco Villa and Andrea in like filming this other project, and then realized very quickly Nora is just such a force of life, and she'd be a fascinating figure for a documentary and to really tell like the abortion rights movement, the feminist movement. She's such a good, and the history of the dictatorship. Like there's so many beautiful places to film her. And so they approached her, and from what I know from Jayson, it took a long time. And I know that just because to convince her, basically. It took a long time to convince her. And when I got involved with the project, it was about a year into filming. She was in the United States through, she was doing a series of lectures that I had organized for her at the University of Alabama, University of Miami, and a important conference. Oh gosh, I'm forgetting. It'll come to me. I think it was the MLA South, Modern Language Association. So she did these conferences. I had organized that. And on that trip, she said to me, they're filming me. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. But yes, she was like, but they've convinced me. They're very charming. They're really, they're persistent, and I guess I'm going to do it. And so they really set the groundwork and set the tone and set this amazing like trust. And I got involved in the project really in 2020. So I was just sort of helping with fundraising in the United States. And then 2020, COVID hit, and Jayson McNamara and I had a 3-hour conversation on the phone, because what else are you doing? Like lockdown. So that was when I said, I really I shared my dissertation, which was about the madres and Nora and Argentina. And that's when I got more involved. But it was really the core three, I would say, Jayson, Fran, and Andrea, who were on the ground filming. And it's just amazing because they got such incredible footage, they got such incredible footage.
And the animation of so many things that you guys brought, and the buitres, I forgot how you say that.
The buitres. You think they're vultures? See, I think they're ravens, but
ravens.
I think
that's
they're
the
ravens.
Word.
Yes, that is all. Andrea Tortorese is a gifted.
No, that
artist.
was amazing. I say buitres because in Puerto Rico we don't have ravens, so we have buitres, right? And that's the way we call.
Tal cual.
And that's how we will call it.
Buitres would have worked. I think they would have worked, but I don't think Argentina. They have condors, but they don't have buitres, from what I know. But I don't know. I'm not a biologist.
No, but it was amazing, the reanimation of so many things, right? Like how they show you, and the moment that he's spoiler alert, he's captured, the moment that moment happens, it's just like it's just hard. It's just hard to watch,
so
even as an animation.
Yes.
But that is amazing, Sarah, how you got into this movie later on, but you were still next to Norita when all this was happening at the same time. So we're like, oh, wait, what?
Well, and that's the thing. Like I blew up my professional life. I'm kidding. I was an educator for decades, and then because of this movie, it really propelled me into this new world of documentary producing. Wow. And I've done some other films that are completed, and then others that are happening. And it's just been really gratifying because her story is so important. The theme is so important. The film, I mean, I am incredibly biased, but I think it's such an amazing film.
Yeah.
And what I think is so incredible about it is this team of artists and producers have come together and really created this beautiful narrative about horrible things that is very palatable for audiences of all kind. Like yesterday, they did a quick interview with me at the Atlanta Film Festival, and they're like, who is your audience? And I'm like, everybody. Like, everybody's my audience, but I gave a few examples. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I'll say this because we're on this show. My friends have seen it, and these are not Latinos, Latinas, Latines, and they are white, and they are overwhelmed by it. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody has a reaction to it because maybe it's the maternal aspect, maybe it's the authoritarian aspect, maybe you just fall in love with Nora, maybe it's there's so many points of contact with her and the movie.
Yeah, and that is the beauty of it. And I wanted to talk about that because you guys kind of let Nora reclaim some parts in the film, right? Like she's taking her own narrative in her own hands. How did that work out? How did you guys give her like a line of like, oh, we're gonna follow this, or she just kind of like told the stories and then you guys kind of like felt like, okay, we're gonna capture that?
So from what I understand, again, I came in and I'm in a different country, but from what I know, they were following her around at some of these pro-female, pro-abortion marches. So, that's just sort of following her with the camera, cine verite. The interviews, I think she was more reluctant at first to do. And you can kind of see that at the beginning where she's like,
yes. No,
I need to go.
And then at the end, there's a flip side to it, which is like, oh, we kind of go in this trip with her as well. Because I think, something like that, to talk about something like that, and then, at the end, she gets more open with about her son,
Vulnerable. Totally. Well, and Jayson and Francisco went end of lockdown 2020 December to capture some like she's in a pink sweater for those interviews. She's not in the hurried like, I am leaving, I need to get going, what are we doing? and they obviously got footage of her with her family, and the family totally bought into that, with the buñuelos at the end. But those last interviews, she really showed a vulnerability. And Jayson's comment is, I think it was COVID. She was so separated from her entire life. Argentina had one of the strictest COVID lockdowns in the entire world. And I think by the end of that year, 2020, she was really open to talking in a way that she hadn't been in 2018 when they were doing a lot of the initial interviews in 2019. So it's just really, it's like the movie got better and better because of this international trauma of COVID. It really did. And I think, it's like the world gave us this opportunity to really hear from her, and she told stories. You can see it in the movie. She tells stories in a different way, and it's a process. The movie gave catharsis to her family. I was there when we screened it for her family in 2023, April, and her surviving son, Marcelo, is very close to me, and he was so impacted by it. And I think I have the right to say this, their relationship improved. It was like they were able to see things about each other that they hadn't been able to see for decades, because, you're in the middle of it and it's trauma.
Yeah. And at some point, I remember she saying that her relationship with her son kind of changed and flipped. And it was because she was so into looking for her other son, that she just lost that connection, and even with her grandson too. So because she literally put her life into this. This was her life, I imagine. which is
It
what she
was.
shows us, and she's what she tells us, right? Just this is her life, and it's
Yeah.
so beautiful that this helped her and her family heal so many things, and move on. And did she had a chance to watch the full film?
Yes. Yes. And let me
Uh,
just caveat, her relationship was always very strong with Damian, the son of
mm.
Gustavo. Always very
Oh,
strong. In fact, one time we vacationed at his place. He does not live in Buenos Aires. He lives in Entre Rios. And I went with Norita to like spend a few days. So that relationship was always solid. And Marcelo's family, especially his two children, have always supported Norita. But I think you can't take away that living through a horrible trauma of the disappearance of your brother is going to affect the rest of your relationship with your mom, who's out in the streets and not being this traditional housewife. So, I mean, it's so multi-layered and complicated. But you asked about, yes, she saw the film, the final edit, in April of 2024,
Wow.
about a month, maybe even 3 weeks before she passed.
Wow.
Yeah, so powerful. Yeah, it was, and she gave the bendición, and the family is thrilled. And I think Lucia Cortiñas, her nieta, who's just the best, I think she's seen it like 20 times in the theaters in Argentina, and like brings her whole Norita football team. I mean, it's just the support has been insane and so meaningful, and yes, it's just wonderful.
I love that. And I wanna ask you about because Norita, she gives us a strong message about collective action and hope.
Yes.
How do you hope it resonate with viewers, especially like younger generations today and activism today?
Excellent question. I've gotten this a lot at the universities I've been presenting the movie with for our social outreach campaign. So that is the key. I mean, one of the reasons why lockdown was so hard for Norita is she didn't have her collective, right? She didn't have FaceTime, not this kind of FaceTime, but like the in-person FaceTime with her best friends who are on the Madres, her family. And everybody was very worried about her with the disease, right? With this virus. So people were very protective of her being kind of cloistered, and she never wanted to be cloistered. She wanted to be in the streets. She wanted to be with her community. She says it in the movie. A bunch of the Madres say it in the archive footage. Without each other, we wouldn't have survived. Without each other, we wouldn't have been able to do this. So that's what I say to young people when they say, what do you recommend? I do caveat it that right now, if your status is precarious in this country, I maybe wouldn't go to a march, if you know what I'm saying, because we have seen that people are, it's this ricochet, right, with the visas. For students, for international students. So that's why I'm just a little hesitant to be like, go to the march. However, there's so many ways of creating collective action, right? You can go to meetings, you can go to online meetings, you can create campaigns together. So I have been recommending, if you're interested in this topic, one student, I remember, I think it was at Claremont McKenna College, said, I'm Argentine. I'm here on a student visa. I'm really activated by this. What would you recommend? I said, get involved with the ACLU. It's already an established organization. It gives you a lot of framework. He was a law student, or he was interested in law. So I think it's knowing that there are these historic, important organizations that you can align yourself, like me and the Madres, right? Like I didn't invent any of this. I was an intern, and that's how I got involved. So I think that's really important. I think it's really important to be in community, however that is, online, in person, on the streets. I think, and know the truth. That is the thing I say to everyone. get multiple sources of a situation. Don't assume one source is telling you what's happening, right? One of the things the Madres did so brilliantly, and they didn't have the internet, of course, they were able to activate all the journalists from abroad who would interview them during the dictatorship, send their message, and also get information what these journalists knew and feed information to them. So it's like really a ground, what do you call that? Like a groundswell of like truth, right? Because so many entities right now are reporting things because they have economic interest or political interest. So it's really, it's finding a community of truth and safety and activism. That's what I would say.
Ooh. I love that. Yeah, no, it is true. It's finding the community. They made their community, and that's, I think that's the biggest lesson you take away from it, right? Like how they got together, and it surprised me that even when some of them found their kids, right, they stayed there.
Yes.
And they were like, detriment. I remember, I remember her saying like, why are you staying here? Why are you found your kid? Why are you staying here? Well, we're not gonna sleep until we find everyone, because it's all of our kids. Like your kid is my kid. And the way they made that collective, and the way they just put egos aside, the way they just fought for each other, and that's I think that's what society needs to remember and know today. And I think we've forgotten that.
Yes.
And I think this is a
100%
biggest example of what we can achieve.
I feel like it's such, somebody said, what movies would you watch or like tomes? And I have, I'm an academic nerd, so I have all these things, and I'm like, watch the movie. It gives you great advice on how to like build a grassroots. That's the word I was looking for before. Grassroots organization. And these women, I mean, it was all visceral. She says that in the movie. It's visceral. It's instinctiva. Like, you go out to find your child, but they became political mavericks. Like, they learned very quickly they could use their maternity as almost a shield. However, we know 3 of them were disappeared in 1977, end of 77, 78. I'm forgetting the date right now, on December 10th and 8th. And one of the madres who found her daughter, Esther Ballestier, I always say her middle last name so wrong, but she's de Cariaga. It's one of those words that it does not roll off my tongue, but I want to honor her because she found her daughter, and her daughter was in exile, and they disappeared her. And as Nora says in a crucial moment of testimony, like one of the trials that is filmed, she says, and where in the world are you disappearing the mothers looking for their children? Like, what is this terror and horror? And they didn't break up the madres. They still exist. You can go to Argentina today on Thursday, 3:30, Plaza de Mayo. You will see madres who are still alive, who are still unbelievable. It's a case study of amazing activism.
Wow. I want to ask you, did you ever walk, and how many times did you walk the plaza?
Oh my God, I don't even know. I've been, because you have to remember, in the 90s, I was there pretty much every year from 95 to 2000, essentially, because I had these grants. I had graduated from college. I also, Connecticut College, shout out. I had these grants from my alma mater to go down. I had a Fulbright in 1998, which was incredible. One of the best years of my life. I lived in Chile with a pastoral scholarship from Rotary. So I was going constantly. And I was at every march that I could be at. I was at every Plaza de Mayo that I could be at. Because it was really a way to put myself in this moment of activism. And in the late 90s, the madres were not appreciated anymore.
Right.
And that changed with a lot of different things, including the laws changing, that they could, the Congress in 1998 change the laws, and they could go after the middle to lower ranking officials and retry the cúpula, the main dictadora junta, like Videla and Macera. And so once that shifted, and then, political opinions about what happened in the 70s shifted in the 2000s. So in the 90s, it was really about putting your body at the plaza to show presencia. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like it was what I could do, because what could I do? I was a student and an intern. So yes, I've been to, I don't even know. I don't know how many.
Wow. No, that's incredible, and I want to thank you, Sarah, for doing that, and for, you were, like you said, you were there interning, but you were still fighting. Your body was part of that fight somehow, and that pressure, right? Like that's how we change history. That's the only way, showing up and doing
so.
That's doing the work. That's doing the work, and you did it, and you did it, and you're doing it now with the movie and everybody else in the team. I feel grateful that this story is being told as a Latino, right? Me as a proud Latino, I feel grateful that people are getting to know our stories, and people are seeing the reality of things. This is such a hard and horror story, right? But it's turned into something beautiful, and it's turned into something like a message that we can get or take away from it. And that's the beauty of Norita, and that's what Norita does. Yes. Norita is going to inspire a new generation, and she's still here inspiring us, and that's the beauty of it. So thank you, Sarah, for that. And I want to ask you before we finish, what's next? What's next for Norita? It's happening here in Atlanta. When is it happening in Atlanta? Yeah.
Screening tomorrow. Everybody come out, 4:00, Terra Theater, Atlanta Film Festival. You can get your tickets. I may have a few if you show up and say, "Hey, I heard the podcast," and I can hand you a ticket. We are screening tomorrow. We're thrilled to be here. It's such an important regional and national festival. I've just had the most wonderful time talking to people and meeting the organizers. Miami, I'm going to Miami on Tuesday with a collaboration with the University of Miami, and we're screening it there. And then we're still getting festivals. We're all organizing. Oh, and I should remark, in Latin America, we have been on fire. Since our festival opening in September, and to this day, we have screened in, I think, almost 400 venues all over Latin America. Film festivals, community centers, universities, the commercial theaters, state theater, community theaters. I mean, it is on fire. And one other opportunity, the Atlanta Film Festival is screening it virtually starting May 5th. Yeah. So you can see it. We are not yet on any platforms. We are not yet distributed, but that is a way that your audience could see it if they can't get to Atlanta tomorrow or Miami.
Or Miami. Yes, but I love that you guys are also going around the Latin America and showing it out there, putting it out there, because yes, we need to hear that story, and in the United States needs to hear that story, and everybody else outside the United States and Latin America needs to hear Norita's story, and I'm excited for what the movie is gonna do and what it's doing right now, for the work that it's doing. And I'm so grateful for having this moment to talk to you about the film, because I think it's such an inspiring and powerful film that I'm gonna send to my Spanish professor from Puerto Rico, because this was a very big topic that we did in our class, and that's where I got it from. So I will be like, hey, you gotta listen to this podcast, and you gotta watch a movie somehow.
Wait, is this the University of Puerto Rico?
Yeah, that's where I went to college for, yeah.
I presented there in 2020 March about the movie, because we hadn't finished it yet, but I did an academic, that was my last in-person academic nerd presentation. I was on a panel and I talked about Norita.
2020. Wait, I was in college in
2020, I'm
2022.
sorry, 2022, excuse me, March
Ah, 2022.
2022.
Okay, I
And
was already
it
out,
was,
but maybe some
yeah,
people. Mhm.
it was,
Ah,
and I only showed a clip or a trailer or something. But
yeah.
yes, por favor, que vengan
Ah,
al cine or a
yeah.
la red.
Yes, I will definitely let some people know there because again, this story needs to be viewed, and it's so important for us and
Yeah,
for the human rights and for humanity itself. You know what I mean? Like everybody needs to watch this film, and I'm excited for what it's doing. So thank you,
thank
Sarah, and thank you to
you,
the team. Thanks to the team for putting
thank
this together.
you. Yes.
And before we leave, where can people follow the journey of Norita and your journey as well?
Fantastic. So we're on Instagram. Our handle is Norita Film, at Norita Film. We also have a website, which is noritafilm.com. We also are on antiquated Facebook, Norita La Película. And then my production shingle is Doctora Stories. I'm in the process of redoing my webpage, but you can find Sarah Schoellkopf at Doctora Stories. And the reason why I named it Doctora Stories is because when I was a professor and an educator, I was Doctora Essay because my last name is impossible. And everybody called me Doctora Essay, so it's Doctora Stories. And then where else? Jayson McNamara is doing projects, Melissa Daniels doing projects, Francisco Villa is doing projects, and Andrea is doing projects too. So any of their names, search for them. Gustavo Santolaya, of course, is like on fire with The Last of Us, but he did our music. And he is one of our EPs. Wow. I mean, it's a good team.
Wow, it's an amazing team.
Yes,
I love that.
We're so lucky. We're so lucky and so grateful. And it's been so important and so meaningful.
Oh, this is amazing, Sarah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this story. And it's amazing that 30 years, you spend with her, and then realizing, oh wait, we're talking about you now, and you flipped aside, and you made this happen. You helped make this happen, and that means a lot. That tells a lot of who you are as a person, not only as an academic nerd. You know what I mean? Like it tells
total
more.
Academic nerd.
I love it.
Academic nerd turned producer.
Yes, that's how it happens, and I love it. I love it. You're using your skills, and thank you. Really, really, I'm really grateful for having the opportunity to watch this and having this conversation. For everyone out there, please go watch Norita at the Atlanta Film Festival tomorrow. If you cannot watch it tomorrow, then you can watch it after the 5th. For a week, it's going to be online if you're part of the Atlanta Film Festival. If not, it's going to be in Miami. And if not, just follow their journey. And at some point, I assure you, you'll be able to watch this amazing film. So thank you again for listening to Lights, Camera, Latino. I am Angel Fabian Rivera, and I always like to end with this phrase: when life knocks you down, levántate con más fuerza, keep fighting. Hasta la próxima.